Welcome back to the KIMI KATO show. Today's guest is Eru Matsumoto, a Forbes 30 under 30 honoree and Grammy-nominated multimedia artist. Recognized as one of the world's leading cellists, her album, Triveni, a collaboration with Wouter, Kellerman and Chandrika Tandon, is currently being nominated for the 67th Grammy in the Best New Age, Ambient or Chant album category. Congratulations. Really hope that you get it. We just went out with Pathway to Light from that album, Triveni, and came back with the song Song of the Birds. So that's a bit different from, that's not on the album, but I thought that we'd talk about your early days, how it all came about. So let's go back to your roots. You were born and raised in,
I was born in Japan
born
and
in Japan.
raised in New Jersey.
Then raised in New Jersey.
Yeah,
When
it's
did
for
you
the
start
warm
playing?
welcome, by the
Yeah,
way.
when did you start playing the cello?
I I met my cello when I was 6 years old.
Hmm.
You met it.
Yeah, it's
I
like a
like the way you put
person, you
it.
know?
Yeah.
Yeah, it just yeah,
Where
it's
in New Jersey did you grow up?
Bergen County. We go by
Okay.
county in Jersey. The
Is that
people
anywhere near Summit, New Jersey?
not I don't think
No?
so. We
Okay.
it I lived maybe like 20 minutes away from the New York City.
Okay.
So
So
yeah,
Summit's
yeah.
about 20 minutes away too.
Oh,
I
okay.
lived in Summit for 6 months, so I'm just curious. It
Oh,
was
Oh,
nearby.
yeah, maybe we were
So
in
you
the
met your cello at 8.
at 6 years old, actually.
six years old.
Yeah. Yeah. So actually, I think my parents were watching a documentary of this legendary cellist Pablo Casals on the TV. And I don't remember exactly what happened, but I decided that I'm going to be a cellist after that. And
Wow.
in the documentary, he was a cellist. He was a very famous cellist, a rock star at the time, but he was also a humanitarian. And during the peak of his career, he would be playing like 400 concerts a year or something like that. And he always constantly play at White House and Carnegie Hall, all these amazing places. And but at the peak of his career, there he decided to protest against World War II, and he decided to go silent for many years and not perform in the country where they supported Hitler. And yeah, so actually Hitler himself said in the radio that he wants to cut off Casal's arms. So it was a really brave move. And he's done a lot of charity concerts and um been a little bit of politics as well. So I mean, when I was still old, seeing his documentary, I thought that's what cellist meant. I didn't know, I didn't have context. So I thought, being a cellist meant you go to a war zone or something and, stop the war from happening, or you tell the troops to stop fighting or something, or, play all the charity concerts and things like that. So that's what I wanted to be instead of the actual cello itself. And I asked my parents to let me play the cello every day, and they didn't really know what cello was, I guess. So they were kind of waiting for me to forget about it, and I begged them every single day.
Oh,
uh,
wow.
yeah, and I guess they're like, okay, she'll eventually move on to something else. And one day I screamed out cello when I was sleeping in my dreams. So I was basically like, cello, and then my parents were finally like, okay, this kid is never going to forget about it, so we should let her play cello. But even then, they didn't really know how to get a teacher, or the cello's big, so they didn't even know there was a kid size cello, half size. So some time passed after that, and one day I had to fix my tooth at the dentist. And I remember this part where my mom was explaining to the receptionist lady about my crazy story of screaming cello when I was sleeping. And after I got my tooth done, I came back to the lobby and there was a famous cellist in the waiting area who
What?
to hear this story. And he walked over to me and he said, "Do you really want to play the cello?" And I said, "Yes." And he said, "Okay, I'll be your first cello teacher." So that's
Oh,
Incredible.
how
that's so cool.
thank you. Yeah, so that's how I started, and that's the only thing I've been doing the past 27 years. Um, but the song that Casals was playing in that documentary that really hit my heart back then was this Song of the Birds. And this was at the United Nations when he was being awarded a peace medal when he was like 92 years old. Um, so that song always resonated with me, and it kind of symbolized who I wanted to be or and what music meant to be. And I still try to always remind myself why I became a musician. And, that's partly why I like to do all these different um, kinds of projects that hoping that it would help people. And that's kind of my language of communication with my cello. So that's why this song is important to me. And I recorded that with 2 layers of cello that I'm playing underneath it. So it's like a three layers of my cello playing and arranged by myself. But yeah, I the
Wow,
song.
what an amazing story how you started the cello. It was from you were visiting a dentist and there he was a was he a famous
Yeah,
cellist, sorry.
yeah,
Cellist.
yeah, yeah. He's actually a Japanese guy,
Ah,
named Yasaoka. And he also graduated Juilliard, and he was very well off. And yeah, he was touched by the story, and he told me that he usually does not teach, but he really felt like he needed to come
It
talk to
was your
us.
angel.
Yes,
Uh,
yeah.
so you studied or you learnt cello underneath him.
Hmm.
Uh,
Yes.
how long were you, and then what happened? So okay, that okay, so that story doesn't normally happen every day, but okay, you people pick up cello or people pick up instrument, and then but then that passion tends to go away after a while. How did that how did that passion kept on burning for 27 years?
Yeah, that's a good question. Well, first of all, I think I'm very like I can't do multitask. I just always fall in love with one thing and I always stick to it. Usually my friends are, friends for a long time. Um, yeah, and I don't know, I just always had the passion of having cello as my company and um always followed my dreams of using cello as a tool to do something bigger than that, I guess, just the music itself. But of course,
And
yeah.
right. And what happened? So when you went to study at Juilliard when you were 16, but
Mhm.
how did that all lead to Juilliard?
Yeah, actually, to be honest, I every school I went to, I was bullied a lot. And I had an experience where someone would shove me into a cello locker for hours and I couldn't get out, or like someone poured milk over me. And just we moved around a lot as I was growing up, but every school I went to, for some reason, I focused on cello, and that's all I talked about, I guess. And I now I understand that how annoying that could be for other
that's
kids.
terrible, though.
And some people want, a lot of kids want to just play, and I had to practice. And my mother was really supportive, and she really sat with me every single day through the practice. And she was never like a tiger parent, but she knew that that's what I wanted to do. So she really, sat with me like 10, 12 hours a day, other than and then made food for us. And so yeah, it's I just knew I had to practice, and some things had to be sacrificed. So I didn't really have a normal childhood, you must say. And it's sort of like a athlete, you know, if you're a figure skater, you just have to practice and you just don't have a life, you know. So
But how
um
did you know that? How did you know that you had to practice? Because, you know, as you're a kid,
yeah.
you don't know that you have to practice. Or was you did you know that? Did you know that you wanted to become a cellist
Yeah, it's
eventually?
weird because when I was 6, when I first got my half-size cello, I remember, you know, we have to sit like 90 degrees to hold the cello properly.
Hmm.
Don't do that anymore, but you just like learn to do that when you first begin. And there wasn't a chair that was right size for me at age 6. I'm sure now a lot of kids start really early, so there's a lot of like chairs made for that.
Mm.
We went to Costco to get the footrest for the massager, and even that was too high for me, so we would bring like phone books and put it underneath my legs or my feet, so it would be 90 degrees. And yeah, so I don't know why I started this talking about this story, but I just when I oh yes, so when I first got my cello when I was 6 years old, I remember I felt like I can play it already, and my sister was like, "Oh, let me play it," and she took the cello from my parents before I got it, and she like started like, you know, trying to make sound out of it, and she was like, "Oh, this is so hard," or something, and I remember so clearly the feeling of looking at my sister trying to make sound out of my cello, and thought like, "Oh, let me show you. I know how to do it." And then she gave it to me and I had absolutely no idea how to play the cello. But for some reason, deep down, I felt like I already knew how to do it. And I was
Wow.
like, okay, wait a second, I'm gonna show you how beautiful it is. And it like this ugly sound came out of it. And I was like, what is going on? I thought I can play the cello. So for some reason, I don't know, it's just like a feeling that you can't really describe, but I was always had driven by this notion of, you know, I this is what my life is and this is what I have to do. And it was never a question of quitting or
Right.
not making this the first priority. Um
Uh, it
yeah.
might sound like a stupid question, but do you think you were like do you think you were reborn from somebody that used to play the cello or someone? Like, it kind of feels like it because it's almost like you knew you had to play it and you stuck to it without even questioning, meaning that maybe centuries ago. And I don't believe in these things, but it feels almost like you're one of those people or person that was reborn to play the cello because
Why
you
don't you
used to do it.
believe in these things, Kimmy?
Huh?
I do believe in past life and
Do
yeah,
you?
I do. Yeah, yeah.
I, I can now believe it. I never used to, but now hearing your story,
Yeah.
Nice.
nothing it probably didn't reset with you. You know, you were born and there was a memory in you
Mm.
and you were just dragged to it. It feels like it
Yeah,
completely.
maybe. I definitely think I was that core feeling of wanting to do something with maybe frequencies or um sharing the feeling of how connected we are is really deeply rooted inside of me.
Mm.
It might not be a cello that I was doing last, you know, whatever century ago. Um, but I do feel like I was always sort of um I don't know, like doing
It
something
doesn't, yeah, it doesn't
frequently.
feel like you were a trumpet player or a French horn player. I think it feels like you're a string
Yeah,
instrument
maybe.
artist or ma- incredible story. Anyways, okay, let's take another break. We are going to go out with Journey Within from Triveni.
Alright.
Okay, don't go away. You're listening to the Kimi Kato Show.